Hi, in the third tutorial I'm going to show you how to use variables and different variable types. So what I have over here is a very simple Python program. It's just using 4 print commands which simply put text on the console. I already shown you this command in the previous episode. And this is a very short, simple program and it already works. We can just run it. And the print command will display all the text from the quotes. So Martin is 50 years old. Martin has 4 kids. He likes having 4 kids. He doesn't like being 50. And this text is going to be our basis for explaining variables and why they can be useful. Or you see, for example, if we want to change now that Martin actually isn't 50 years old, but for example, he is 35. So we have to go to each and every line which mentions that he's 50 years old and then manually change it to 35. Another situation, Martin gets another kid. Now he has 5 kids. So we have to go to each and every line that contains his amount of kids and change it to 5. And on a small scale like this one, this isn't going to be a problem because you just have 2 lines to change. However, in bigger programs where you have a lot more code, this can become a real problem, especially if you have thousands and thousands of lines and you would have to go to every single one of them and change a single thing. So that's where variables come in. Variables can have different types and they vary from different languages. For example, in Python, you're mainly going to be using integers, floats, strings, characters, and things like that. So first thing we want to do is we want to shift this code downwards a bit so we have some space to work with. And we're going to create our first variable. In different languages, you usually have to declare which data type of the variable is it. Is it an integer, is it a string, etc., etc. So in Python, it's actually automatically detected which data type is needed, and that data type is assigned to your variable. So we simply have to first name our variable and then apply a value to it. So I'm just gonna name the variable now Martin's age. And now we're gonna apply a value to it. So one really important thing to remember in programming languages is that an equals symbol is not actually equals. It's not used to show that one thing is equal to another, but rather it's used to assign a value to something. So if I write Martin's age equals 20, this is a command which applies the value 20 to Martin's age variable. And because Python is smart enough to automatically detect a data type, we don't have to tell it that it's an integer. It will automatically create an integer with a value of 20 named Martin's age. So now we can simply print this value. We can just use a print command and then input the name of the value we want to display. While putting values into the print command, you don't actually have to put quotes in. And actually, if you would put quotes in here, it wouldn't work because it would just display Martin's age because you're changing it into a string and not an actual variable. So if we run this code now, you're gonna see, for some reason I have to scroll upwards, it displays the value 20 because 20 is the value assigned to the Martin's age variable. You can use all kinds of mathematical operations in programming, just like you would do in math, like addition, subtraction, and everything similar. So you could simply just say Martin's age equals 20 plus 5. And now if we run the program, Martin's age is 25. Pretty much anything you would need, you're gonna be able to use in a programming language. For division, you simply use a dash. For multiplication, you have to use the star. And there's a couple more operators, but more on that on future episodes. You can also perform operations already in the print command. You don't have to always do them while assigning the value to the variable. So we could just write Martin's age plus 5. And now instead of Martin's age 20, which applied here, it's gonna display what's the value of Martin's age plus 5. So when we run the program, it's 25 again. So now if we want to use this variable actually in the text we created, there's a few methods you can do that in. So the first, and I think one of the most common methods would be to simply put quotes over here, just like that, instead of the age. Then you can either use commas, or you can just use pluses. I prefer to use pluses. For me, it's just more clear. I can actually like see and process what's happening easier. It all depends on what you prefer, really. You should find your ideal method and work with that method. So if we do now, Martin is, in quotes, plus Martin's age plus years old. This is going to now display the value Martin's age in the text. And this is now going to display the value in the text. However, you have to be careful because this is an integer. This is a number. This isn't a string of text. So if we actually try to do it this way, it's simply going to crash because it's trying to use mathematical equations to add Martin's age to words, and that's just not how maths work. So a simple solution to that is using a string function, which is basically just typing str and then putting Martin's age in brackets, and that's it. You can simply just run the program now, and it will say Martin is 20 years old. And you can simply repeat that operation for every single time you mention Martin's age. And now again, if we run it, Martin's age is 20, and for some reason he doesn't like being 20. I guess he's just grumpy. Another thing you can do if you really don't want to put this string operation each and every time you input Martin's age, you can simply transfer Martin's age into a string prior to using it. So to do that, we are going to assign a value again. We're going to set Martin's age equals string Martin's age. And now what this is going to do is that it's going to change the integer 20 into a string. So simply put, it's going to change a number into a word. It's going to be a word 20 created out of characters 2 and 0, and not actually a number you could do mathematical operations on. So you have to be careful again, because you cannot do math on a string. You can only do math on numbers and not on actual words. So now if we change this Martin's age into an actual string, we don't need to use this operation again while trying to display it in text. We can simply just put Martin's age. And then when we run it, it just works. I'm also gonna show you the other method, which is simply just replacing pluses with commas. It works exactly the same. I'm just gonna show it real quick. As you can see, if I run it, it works just fine. It works the same way. As I said before, it's your choice. You can either do it this way or the other way. I prefer to do it with pluses. However, somehow you might use commas. It all goes down to personal preference and how you do things yourself. So now we can do the same thing with Martin's kids. We can create a variable called Martin's kids and make it equal to, for example, 3. But now that you're actually using commas instead of pluses, you don't have to worry about this string transfer. You don't have to transfer it to a string because Python will do it automatically for you, just because you're not trying to actually do math here. You're not using the plus symbol, therefore there shouldn't be any crashes. So it might be simpler this way. Like I said, it's all up to your personal preference. I prefer the other method. It might be more complicated, I don't know. That's just how I prefer to do things. So now we have Martin's kids equal to 3. And we can change it in text in all places. And now if we run the program again, everything displays just like it should.